Welcome to Online Drawing Workshop. Hello everyone, my name is Stevan. I'll be your instructor for next 8 weeks intensive basic course. I'll be sharing a lot of basic drawing skill set that I have learned, trained, and earned from many years of experience in animation industry. From basic human anatomy to developing your own style. A variety of areas that you need for character art will be discussed in this workshop. There are many areas that require a great character art. Whether you are a storyboard artist, visual development artist, you're a character designer, you're a game artist, it doesn't matter. They all share to have a great basic foundation of character drawing behind. I hope through many studies of the character drawing in the workshop will strengthen your basic drawing skill set, and I hope this workshop is really beneficial for everyone who wants to be a professional animation artist or game artist and even comic book artist. Before I share a curriculum for next 8 weeks, I'd like to go over a few things that you guys need to know how we're gonna run this workshop together. If you have a Facebook account, please feel free to join the Facebook group of Online Drawing Workshop by Stevan. You can simply search Online Drawing Workshop by Stevan on the Facebook search and join the group. It's open to public. This is where we're going to communicate during the workshop, and even after the workshop is over, we'll continue to keep in touch and communicate each other at this Facebook group. So please join the Facebook group, and you're going to be able to meet every student from previous or even future workshop. And whenever I find a great artwork or great artist or even great tutorial, I'm gonna share it through this Facebook. So it's gonna be also a very neat, resourceful website for every one of you. If you're taking a full version of this workshop, there is a Q&A session web meeting. The web meeting service that the class will be using is by GoToMeeting.com. It's very simple to use. You can join the web meeting by your desktop computer, tablet, or smartphone. The web meeting link and password will be given to you via your email address before the class begins. You can simply follow the link on your web browser or the app that you download on your mobile, tablet, or phone to join the Q&A session. If you're taking this workshop as an audit version, Q&A session is not available for you. If you're taking this workshop as a full version, you're asked to join the Q&A group chat through Line app. My Line ID is Stevan82. Feel free to search me and send me a message and add me as your friend, and I'll send you an invite to join the Q&A group chat. So this will be our communication hub for next 8 weeks. After you finish watching the lecture videos, if you have any questions during the Q&A session, you're gonna leave questions on this group chat, and I'll be happy to answer. And one etiquette that I'd like to ask every one of you is, other than Q&A session, please do not use this Line Q&A group chat. Many of the students in the workshop are coming from various different time zones. So if you start to make a conversation other than Q&A session, to some students it becomes a noise. So please don't make any unnecessary messages to send out other than Q&A group session for others. If you are taking this workshop as an audit version, Q&A group chat is not available. Q&A group session is not available. But please feel free to add me on the line. I'll be happy to get connected with you. If you're taking this workshop as a full version, any assignment you turn it in will be followed by review and critic on your work. Drawingworkshop.tumblr.com will be a website that you're gonna post your assignment every week. Our Tumblr blog is protected by password, so you'll need to have a password to view the blog. The password will be shared soon via your email address after the first class is over. In order to post your assignment, you'll need to gain an access by becoming a member on our blog. So if you don't have an account on Tumblr, please sign up for one account before the workshop begins at tumblr.com. The membership invitation email will be sent out to students from Tumblr. Because the email is coming from Tumblr, sometimes it won't show up on your email inbox. In that case, please check your social, promotional, or update or even spam folder to find the email. You'll need to respond to the email in order to be a member at our Tumblr blog. Let me go over how the curriculum is set up for this workshop. There are two big categories. One is techniques, second is creativeness. So first, 4 lecture videos will cover basic drawing skill, head, upper body, lower body. We will study intensively on basic techniques that you guys need to draw character art. Last 4 lecture videos cover a lot of creative thinking and creative approach to character art, gesture, acting, clothing, style development. Based on the strong basic foundation of techniques, the students will study and learn how to make the character drawing more appealing and alive. Every end of the lecture video, there will be an assignment handout for you to do and complete. Every assignment will be related to the subject we shared during each lecture video. So that's about basic information that you guys need to start this workshop. If you have any further question, please feel free to email me anytime at artofstevan@gmail.com. So let me introduce myself. My name is Stevan. I worked in the animation industry about 10 years so far. Many of you know my work from various action shows such as Legend of Korra, Ben 10, Ninja Turtles, or Voltron. I've been working as a storyboard artist most of the time. I've done a couple assistant directing, and I've done directing at DreamWorks. So I worked at many American animation studios such as DreamWorks, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, Fox, so and so. I kind of want to introduce the history of my drawing, so hopefully it kind of be resourceful for you guys. I'll kind of share how I improved and how I grew, and who influenced my art and all that. So hopefully it helps your journey. I went to CalArts when I was 18 years old. I studied under Frank Terry, Michael Mitchell, Cornelius Cole. I worked under this amazing artists who are legendary in animation. So I feel really lucky that I went to school with people like these amazing artists. Unfortunately, they had passed away a few years ago, all of them. Feel free to open up your browser and search their name and see their works on Google Images. They are kind of older generation, so Google doesn't really have many of their work, but feel free to check them out. So Frank Terry, I studied animation. It was quite unique because his background wasn't from Disney. He's a European art animator, so it was kind of neat to study his ideas and his techniques. Quite quite new compared to Disney. It was kind of very refreshing. It inspired me a lot. And Michael Mitchell, Cornelius Cole, it was a figure drawing design class and drawing class. They have had influenced me a lot. CalArts, the average age at CalArts was back then, it was 25 years old, which means people usually go to CalArts when their age turns out middle 20s. So CalArts is where they teach you. It's an art school with dance, music, theater, film school. The animation program I studied was under film school. It's not a design and drawing school, so they don't teach you a lot of basics or techniques. They kind of expect you to already master those before coming to CalArts. So when I went to CalArts when I was 18, their curriculum about art, creativeness, idea, designs, and developing and moving on in this art history, it was too much for me. It was my journey to learn art was quite opposite than the others. I skipped all the basics. There was no one teaching me all the basics. It was all the advanced critical thinking about art. So I learned quite opposite way. I learned creative idea and critical thinking about art. First, I kind of skipped all the basics in my drawing, which means I drew very terrible back then. After CalArts, I think my drawing improvement kind of stopped after CalArts, and I kind of had a couple years of downtime, unemployment, and I started working at many cartoon and sitcom shows. I feel my drawing wasn't improving as much as I don't feel like my drawing was improving a lot. I was working at Cleveland show back then. I was drawing, sketches outside at the cafe, but unconsciously I drew my human drawing, and I drew a hand with the four fingers because Cleveland had the four fingers. At that moment, I was kind of surprised myself that my drawing is not improving at all. I think my drawing start to improve and start to make a change when I start working at action shows. So I worked with Seung-Yeon Oh on Generator Rex. He taught me a lot of stuff. It was fortunate that he was a layout artist on big, projects from South Korea. He worked on, Macross 7, I believe, in Japan. So he was a very skillful, experienced artist who taught me a lot of things. And Jay Kim, I worked with him on Ben 10. He kind of inspired me and introduced me a lot of Japanese filmmaking and animation making techniques and the art. So it was really inspiring. I feel like The Legend of Korra was the biggest turning point in my drawing life. It was such a boot camp. Ryu Ki-han, Joaquim Dos Santos, Lauren Montgomery, these three are amazing artists. Their art has influenced my art so much. So you can see that, feel free to look up their work on Google as I share these. Type in name, search their work on images. You can see Ryu and Joaquin Lauren, their style kind of influenced my style. You can see my work is very similar to their lines. So I want to give credit to them and huge appreciation to them, these artists. So Voltron was fun. They're the showrunners on Voltrons. Because I grew up in South Korea, there were a lot of Japanese imported animation shows. I think I'm the that luckiest generation who, as a kid, who got to watch Miyazaki's all TV series like Sherlock Holmes and Future Boy Conan. Um, I'm that generation in 80s in South Korea. In 90s, all the Gainax work really inspired my heart and passion. Like director Hideaki Anno. Today, definitely, I'm sure everyone know Yu Yoshinari, Sushio, Imaishi, Iwasaki. Everyone on this here list, they had influenced me a lot. So I had a very strong affection to Japanese anime style. I think I'm gonna share more in the future how the difference between Asians' perspective on animation and Americans' perspective on animation art. So I think because I'm Korean, because I'm Asian, Japanese anime had more relate. I was able to be more related to it. I'll share more detail in the future. It's very important to know why they are in different style, just like in history, in art history, how Asian art was completely different than European art. So I'm sure a lot of you are taking this journey as becoming a creator artist. So hopefully the how I grew kind of tells you some advice in some way. So let me kind of share the stuff that we're gonna do on throughout this 8-week course. It's very important to know what area of art we are exploring through this workshop. So it's because some people have everyone has a different category and everyone has different style. So Scott McCloud, he wrote this book called Understanding Comics: The Invisible Art in 1993. I didn't read the book, but I know that one diagram he made is a pictorial vocabulary. In this triangle shape, there's a 3 points, 3 edges. One shows the reality, one shows the picture plane, and one shows the language. So which means if your drawing stays in this area where your drawings will be more realism. If you drawings have a tendency to stay on the top side, it gets more abstraction, like Picasso. And let's say stick figure. A lot of web comics do very simple drawings just to cross the information. So it doesn't matter even you draw stick figure is there are 2 dots of eyes. Their balloon head with curved mouth with simple lines of showing legs and arms. It shows the meaning. It doesn't have to be realistic drawing. As soon as you see it, you get to know the meaning of the drawing, right? So usually artists kind of explore the area within this triangle. Usually many artists begin their drawing journey from here. They study figure drawing, they study basic drawings and all that, and try to move on to something. As they move on, here it gets more, you're leaving away from realism. So as an animator, we have a tendency to go this way, right? All the cartoon shows, Powerpuff Girls or SpongeBob, those cartoon shows are very simple shapes of art, right? So let's talk about like DC comic or Marvel or even game industry. A lot of them are still staying, in this zone where you kind of keep everything very figurative, very realistic, right? So I kind of want to introduce. So this class, we're not gonna it's not a figure drawing class. We are not studying realism through this class, or this is not a character design class. So we are not gonna go over much of shapes and abstraction, and of course this is still a drawing workshop. So you're not gonna we're not gonna talk about stick figure, how to storytell through simple drawings, and all that. So the area we're gonna explore is kind of right in the middle. So as you can see, my drawing, it's not too simple to be a cartoon. It's not too simple to be a stick figure just crossing the information, but it's not too real. So the stuff that I'm gonna share and the demo that I'm gonna share, the style that we're gonna explore will be around the center area in this triangle. So it's gonna be a lot of character drawings, the way I approach all very similar to my past works like Voltron, Korra, Ben 10, Ninja Turtles. So it's kind of tricky area. Not is you kind of have to have a little bit of realism. You kind of have to have a little bit cartoony shapes, and also you kind of have to make things simplify, right? So this will be the area we're gonna explore for the next 8 weeks. So I heard this story about this soccer coach. There's a big soccer club in Europe, where all the players are very expensive, very high paid, very talented team with many talented players. They weren't making any progress. Game they go to, they lose constantly. They were losing a mentality to know how to win the game. So when the new soccer coach came in, he gathered everyone around, and through those professional soccer players who have played so many years, the coach kind of reminded them the basic what's pass, basic rules of the soccer's, like the pass, shoot, throw, run, and all these basic skills and rules, and reminding the players what's the purpose of each basic stuff, like why you need to make a pass, what's the purpose on the pass, and all that. And I've heard the story that the team was getting back to winning the games after that. So the reason I'm sharing this is because it is very important to know the basic skill as your foundation, but to know also what's the purpose of the basics. So back to the first story that I was going to share. Whenever I review portfolio from students, I see same problem. Generally, some people come and they say, they've done this, they've done that, they've taken this class, they learned, they studied the figures and human anatomy and all that. But so many years have passed, but the improvement was very limited. And also I see my friends who show no improvement. Like their drawings are same as 5-10 years ago. The reason behind that is because first, you never learn, you never studied, you never try hard to improve your drawings. And second, didn't care the basics. So because of the basic wasn't strong enough, the building couldn't get taller. So they always stay at the same level. I kind of want to go back and share 3 important basics. With these 3 basics, I kind of introduce you the style that I'm doing in my drawing, and just telling you that next 7 weeks of studying the figures, you will have to apply these basics that I'm sharing today. Sometimes when I go to convention, when I give critics to students, some people get offended by my review. But their portfolio, their drawing skills are not great. It's hurting their price because I'm telling them, oh, you gotta make your basics strong, and they get offended because they've been studying basics as other classes and school. And what's the reason behind that is you learned it wrong, or either your style and drawing skill got really old. You're drawing like a 1970s, and expect everyone to fall in love with your style. Maybe that's the case, but most of times you learned the basics in a wrong way, and they're not helping you to grow. So today we're gonna share basics. Before I share these 3 things, my mentor told me that when we eat fish, we eat meats, not the bones, right? My life mentor kind of shared that to me, that sometimes all the advice are not helpful. Sometimes some of them are good, some of them are harmful. So he was trying to encourage me that I don't have to listen to every single advice and apply them, but try to eat the meat part only. So try to take only good advices that helps you to grow, but give up the bone part. So when throughout this workshop, you're gonna listen to my lectures. Some of them will be technical issues. Some of them will be coming from the style perspective. It's some of the advice I suggest you will coming from my style rather than techniques. So sometimes styles are not rules, so which means you don't have to follow it. So whatever I share with you in this workshop, please remember this fish meat bones. Try to take good stuff and beneficial stuff to your art, and sometimes some of my suggestion might not work on your art because of your own style. In that case, take it as fish bones that you don't want to eat. So I'll give you some of the example I had. When I was learning 2D animation back in the days, Disney, DreamWorks, they were the hottest, kind of pioneer. I mean, still they are very popular art style. So for example, back then in 90s, everyone animated characters' hands with like 3rd and 4th finger kind of connected together. Like, they were animating, I'll just draw here. So if there's a first finger, they drew 2nd and 3rd connected when they were animating. And we were worshipping this technique. Like, So when they animate, it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers. It was a very popular style back then. I animated that way also, and we kind of, because I was so young back then, I kind of took it as a rule, not a style. But right now, today, if they animate my show like this, I'll be really, really mad. So this was a style, which means you don't have to follow it that way. You don't have to take it as a rule. There are many things like line and curve where Disney invented, where you have to put line, but next to the line you have to put curve, and it gives you aesthetic, most satisfying design look, which is true, but it doesn't apply to everything. So you kind of have to when you even study drawing, please do know that the art keep evolving. Maybe 10 years later you look back at my lecture. 10 years later you're gonna say, I'm pretty sure every one of you will say, Steve, you are wrong. Your style is now old. There are new rules, there are new styles. So please take it as your own discretion, that try to take good parts, and if you feel like something's not working out for you, you are an artist and you have a free will, you have a free craving to create. So please take care as you study. Alright, so there are 3 basics that never change. One is line. Second is shape. A form is the last. So these are 3 basics. These are what makes the difference between pros and amateurs. I have a pianist friend who plays a really good piano. She plays at USC. She told me one day that story that the pianists know that they know how to tell who's the professional and who's amateur just by looking at simple first how they lay their finger on the piano. Just looking at that, they don't have to listen the whole song. Just one note, how they play the one note, they can tell whether the person is a professional or amateur. So even in art, it's kind of very similar. We can apply. I can take a look at your line and shape and form. I can tell whether you are a professional or not. So these 3 are very crucial elements in basic drawings that makes that difference. So which means if you're a beginner or amateur, you must always master these three elements on your art. Okay, so we're gonna go over one by one, and I'll share how I think of each element. What are the general ideas that artists share on each one? Line is usually either straight or curved, right? So in drawing, when we draw a human character, we draw either straight lines or curved line often. These are kind of general, the way we draw, right, on the paper or Cintiq. What does line mean in the drawing? It's an identifiable path. It often defines the edge So its identifiable path often defines the edge of a form and object. So if you draw a stick figure, we can tell what the object is. The stick figure, the person, we can define by simple line, collection of lines, we identify the objects. And usually when we draw an object, we try to draw an outline of the object, right? So that's kind of simple purpose of line. Okay, but line has a more feature than just giving an information of an object. So it could be concrete, which means it could be very specific. It shows very specific thing or objects or form that the viewer can identify. It could be very concrete, yet it could be very abstractive. And emotional. What it means is it's a simple line, but that line can create abstraction and emotion, like sentimental, fear, love, peace. You know, it's not just simple line. By collecting all these lines together, we can create something more than what it looks. Which means line hold many meanings. So meanings such as a weight, strength, direction, depth, edge of a form, as we shared it in the beginning. It could have a length. It could have a psychological it separates BG and object. What else? It could create a mood, atmosphere, so probably some more, many more. Yada. So, but we're gonna go over these today. Okay, so please remember that the purpose of line is not just drawing the edge of a form, but it should have many more meanings. I'll show you some of the example as we move on. So let's say there's a balloon and rock. you know, if I draw a balloon, very light line quality, you know, it's flying up in the air. And what if I draw a thick line? We can simply, drawing the thickness, we can simply share the information of the weight, right? Which one looks heavier? Definitely the square one. Maybe the square one is also a balloon. But because of the line quality, it looks heavier than the circle balloon. They're such a good friend. Okay. So we can show weight by line. So if you look at this drawing, the darker lines creates the objects feel like it's closer to the camera, right? But soft lines feels like the objects are far away, even though they are all on the same 2D surface. So by using thickness and give a variation, each line creates a different purpose. Each line is thickness, and each quality of line creates a different effects on your drawing. So even like Asian art, when they draw a vase, they drew, the technique they drew was they drew thin line on the area that's far away, and thick line when it's closer to the viewer. So it kind of gives like a dimension, 3D dimension effects. So let's say even there's a decoration, they drew they used thick line to draw a closer area. And maybe darker area here just to show the weight on the ground. And let me show you another example. The image right now here, the one has a very flat same tone of line, right? And other and drawing B has the variety of tones and values applied. What's the difference can you find from each diagram? So first one, because the line quality is same and all black without any adding tones, it looks flat. It looks flat to me, which is you can use this technique to achieve any purpose you have. That would be great, right? So which means it has less information. And if you look at B, it's a very similar drawing, but because of that there is a tone, it's kind of creating an illusion that it's still flat drawing, flat dimension, but it's giving you an idea where is the light source, and it kind of faking the 3D dimension to the viewers. So which means it contains more information than just giving the very straightforward meaning from diagram A. Okay, so let's look at this diagram. So there are 4 different kinds of lines, and each line has a different achievement. So there's no wrong or right answer. I'm not talking about wrong or right. I'm talking about whatever purpose you have that you want to achieve in the drawing. You must think about these and how you can use these elements to achieve whatever purpose you have. So let's say first one is a horizon line. Second is a vertical line, and third is a diagonal line, and fourth is a curved line. So horizon line gives the psychological effect peaceful, calm, rest. Vertical line usually gives it's little active. It's definitely more active than the horizon line, but it gives a quietness. It still has a quietness. If you look at diagonal line there, it shows very dynamic, active, and it gives attention. And if you look at the curved line, it shows the very soft, shallow. So let's say there's a big wave coming towards you. You probably don't wanna make your drawings on the horizon line, right? You probably if you wanna make it more dynamic, you wanna use very dynamic tension diagonal line. For example, if you wanna draw a wave, so this is a very simple drawing. If the big wave is coming, using a line more diagonally will create more tension on your drawing. This is very simple demo, but think about, please remember that every line serves some kind of effects, and it always brings a result to your drawings. So let's look at this simple drawing I did. So these are the collection of lines, and because of collecting those lines, those abstractive lines, combination of it creates meaning and story, and it tells a lot of, it carries a lot of information. So for example, these hairs is two curves, right? One, two curves. Oops. They're just two curves, but they show by the first curve shows the volume of the hair, and the second curve shows the direction of the which hair is going. So even these are very simple lines. They serve some kind of purpose and leaves some kind of result and mark on the drawing. So these, because I drew them downward, it shows there's a weight and gravity pulling the hair. So this one shows the direction. So this one shows the direction, but also it shows the volume that these, even this one simple line creating these areas, the volumes are different than the other area. And so this one line here carries, it carries a multiple meaning. Okay, so let's look at this hand and arm. What does this line serve? It shows, it indicates, and it gives a direction, right? Let's look at this line under. Because it's curved down, it shows the weight. It shows the weight that the gravity is falling the cloth downward. So that's why it's falling down. Let's look at this abstractive lines here. I kind of, it's just a simple demo. Because I'm drawing these lines, it is describing and expressing that she's using some kind of force and power. What if these lines are very lighter tone? Then it's gonna represent that her power is, the force, magical force, is weaker than what you see now, right? Let's look at the dress skirt. It shows some kind of active lines here. It shows the direction and volume of the dress. So this one shows what's happening to her dress. It's wind blown. So each line serves different purpose and leaves a mark on your result, on your drawing, the result on your drawing. I kind of want to show you guys some samples of how lines were treated differently in many masters' artwork in history. Let's look at Rembrandt sketches. You can see a lot of cross-hatching, and you can see his lines were trying to create a form, shade, light source, and it's hairs, eyebrows. He used the lines to send a lot, carry a lot of information in the drawing. Let's look at Egon Schiller's sketches. It's the same line drawing, but it's the atmosphere and the mood it's giving is a lot different than Rembrandt, right? It feels like both carries the portraits, but Egon Schiele line seems more stronger and more edge than the Rembrandt. By this drawing, I can see who the person is, but also line tells me what kind of person he is. It feels like it carries the personality and the essence of the character. Let's look at Klimt sketch. Let's look at Klimt drawing. It's very shallow, soft. There's no such thing edginess. It's very soft, smooth drawings. It's definitely creating a different vibe than the Egon Schille's drawing, right? You can see every artist treats line differently, and because of the line, the way that they use the line, it serves the different purpose. I'm pretty sure many of you have studied a lot of European or American, kind of Western world of art history. I'm sure if you're not Asian, probably not familiar with history in Asia. I think it's good to study. We usually study art as Western art as a kind of like a core standard learning. But if you it's always good to explore. Every country has a different perspective. They have we all have a different philosophy, and we all have a different perspective. That's so. It's good to explore Latin America's art, Hispanic art, like Africa's. There are many great art. I feel like architect or making sculpts or things like that. We all have the different style. Usually they are different because like Europe and Asia, they're all different. It's not because of the skill, but usually it's because of the perspective, the way they look at the objects, and philosophy and thoughts were different each other. So European art, we learn when the artists in Europe, when they look at the objects, they usually wanted to define the object by plane. When there's an object, let's say there's a cube. When European artists saw an object, they wanted to define the objects by the plane. So they were trying to draw the art with planes. So make sure everything gets in 3D dimension. So if you look at Rembrandt, if you look at many European art in old days, they were trying really hard to make everything in 3D dimension, and so that's why the light source and the shadows were very, very important. But in Asia, when Asian artists look at the objects, they defined the objects by lines. So this, that. Asian artists didn't value planes as much as Europe did. So in Asian art, there was a tendency that they do not carry any light source or shadows. The reason they put their perspective was different. Asian artists wanted to draw the essence of the object. Meanwhile, European artists drew the way it looks in 3D dimension. If you look at this portrait of a man, they wanted to draw who the person is, not how he looks alike. So if you look at Rembrandt's drawings, he left many portraits, right? But they all look different person. Asian artists thought they all look different person because the light source changes and the shadow changes. It wasn't important to Asian art. Asian art wanted to draw who the person is, and the essence of it, essence of the objects. So they wanted to carry a lot of meaning into one simple lines. They had to carry a lot of meaning, and it was kind of inspiring as an artist, and especially as an animator, to know this. The philosophy behind Asian art was they looked at the line as an essence. So it was more than just being identifiable path, or just more than just being the edge of the form. Just like I say, line carries a lot of it could carry a lot of abstraction and emotion. The Asian artists thought the line carries the essence. And as an animator, it's very important and very inspiring because we deal with line works a lot. When we draw, it's all about lines. So it's very important because we are working on with breathable, living characters. We are not just drawing how the character looks alike. We are drawing who the character is. I think it's very inspiring point to know. If you want to know more about what it means that line carries the essence, there's a very good movie called Chihwaseon. It's a Korean movie about this biography of a very famous artist back in old days. It's a very interesting movie. It shows how his drawing progressed. You can see, you don't have to study art history in Asia, but this film will kind of give you the idea what it means that line is an essence. So here, let me suggest you, I want to make some kind of suggestions to you guys. When you practice line drawings, do not draw a line mindlessly. So a lot of beginners kind of draw on the paper, but they don't know why they drew that line. They don't know the purpose of the line. Every line has a purpose, and it creates some kind of effects in the drawing. So which means you have to be very thoughtful when you draw a line. And don't draw, especially if you are beginner to semi-pro, don't draw fast. Draw slower. So there are people who read the entire book in like 5 minutes. Have you guys ever heard about that? Like there are people who can read like 300 pages of book in 5 minutes. Yeah, speed reading. It's actually possible. Let me tell you about it. So when we read a book, generally ordinary person like me, we read a book, we catch a vocabulary one at a time. So we are processing one word at a time in our brain. But if you practice that, if you practice to process multiple words at the same time in your brain, which is possible. It takes a practice, it takes time. So all those speed readers, they practiced. So they look at the words in a sentence. So they process like few sentences at the same time in their brain. I think that tells us a lot. In the beginning, in your brain, you don't have much of knowledge library about drawing. So it takes a time. You cannot draw fast. Usually, if you draw slower, it works better. And the reason I'm suggesting, if you're a beginner in drawing, the reason I suggest to draw slower, I want you to draw as you are thinking through. Don't draw a line before you made a decision in your brain. So usually to beginners, I ask you, I think the gesture drawing and the figure drawing, they are completely different area. I suggest beginners to draw from figure drawing first. So which means long pose first. So I don't expect artists to draw shorthand, quick drawings good when they cannot even draw how to draw the long pose. Like, I don't recommend people go out and draw people if you are beginners, because you don't even know how to draw perfect when the figure is just steady still through for long hours. You need to know how to draw a long pose first, then move on to short. So if you have a knowledge from long pose, it's gonna come out quick when you draw a quicker pose. And this is just my suggestion. This is what I make suggestion to artists. It's not a rule, so you don't have to follow. But usually I usually suggest artists to draw slower if you're a beginner. So the great way to practice is a lot of product or transportation designers practice this. They put, A and B. They practice from A to B. So draw slower. Keep the same tone. You can do different thickness. They practice this like countless times, like more than 1,000. They waste. They use like 1,000 papers just to draw lines and curves, and because they want to use a professional drawing lines. Line can show very straight, perfect curve, perfect circle. As a human drawing artist, you don't have to draw a perfect circle or perfect straight line. I think it's better if your line is not perfect, because it shows I think those lines are more better for artists who draws organic stuff, like us, who draws humans, animals, and moving stuff. Like product designers and transportation designers, they want to draw very straight, clean lines because they are working on very mechanical things. So please do exercise these. Many amateurs, many bad drawings tendency have some bad habits. First one is they draw a line very short. So which means let me show you on a new. There are some amateurs who draw really fast on face like that, but when they it's hard to draw bad. When they draw a body, they use multiple lines, multiple short lines, and sometimes I see a lot this they use this circle and cross in the center, and when they draw, it has nothing to do with that. that structure they put in the beginning. So sometimes some people draw these circle as a bad habit, like there's no meaning to it, and people draw like have a tendency to draw like a usual short line. So please do not do that, which means if you're a beginner, try to practice that. Don't take out the tip of your pencil out of the paper. So try to draw more longer lines. If you are having this issue with drawing short lines always, try to draw a longer line. So longer, try to draw longer lines. It has a tendency your drawing is gonna improve much more. And please don't draw heartlessly. Please give an effort. So let me write that down. So don't draw short line. Give efforts on drawing each line. So let me show you one thing. A lot of beginners, the reason your drawings are bad because you put less efforts. You just want to draw fast, like I don't know. Don't do quick. If you want to improve your drawing, don't always draw quick, heartless drawings. Take a time and give efforts. It's okay to draw slow. I draw slow. As you draw, try to think about how you want to put down the line to serve what kind of purpose. So the problem that I see from many professionals is that in animation we have a tendency to draw things very rough, and we have a mentality that rough is okay. The problem is if you don't have a very profound concrete foundation technique and basics, if you draw rough for many years, after 10 years that's the only thing you can draw, and no one will care after 10 years your drawings will be just rough drawings. No one values the rough drawings. So drawing slow doesn't mean it's gonna take you an hour or all day. You can see I just drew that same similar character within few minutes. So I'm not saying take your time like a few hours and you don't have to finish your drawing fast. You know, a lot of painters take their paintings for many months, you know. So, but as an animator, when we draw a human character, we have a tendency to do things everything fast. And please, if you want to improve, is something you want to avoid. Okay. So give efforts. These are very important. So a lot of amateur and beginners, when they draw a line, because they're making very many unnecessary line choices, that makes your drawing messy and bad. So you have to know what kind of purpose you have and how you want to achieve it through what kind of lines. So that's very important. And please, if you're a beginner and amateur or even semi-pro, I recommend you to draw with 4B pencil and use paper instead of Cintiq pen. Okay, so pencil is the fastest way to grow and improve. So throughout this workshop, please use pencil as much as you can. I mean, there will be some assignments that you require to use tablet, but most of the time you can still use papers. And please do not use eraser. It's okay to make a mistake. I'm not saying draw slower to make a perfect drawing. I'm saying, you know, it's okay to make a mistake, and it's always good to look back your drawing after you finish it and see what are the lines that you made are not working. So it's okay to leave the mark of the mistakes on your paper. All right. So let's move on to shape. I'm not gonna go over shape a lot in this drawing workshop because shape is very important in animation. The shape is very important in animation. Usually it's deal with many design class. So if you ever have taken any character design class or prop design or BG design class, you have heard this lesson a lot. The circle usually means friendly, soft, likable, harmless. Square means usually strength, stability, comfort. Triangle means aggressive, danger, harmful. Each shape gives very different psychological effects to your drawing. So for example, I drew these simple characters. You can see like the first drawing, many curved lines, many roundish, gives, you know, kind of friendly gesture to the viewer. If you look at the second square, cube looking, rectangular looking face, it looks very bold, stubborn, steadiness. You know, he looks like he's not gonna move. You know, he's very strong about his decision and all that. So for the last, if you look at this triangular shape person, you know, you can see he looks kind of, because he has so many edges and points, he looks kind of villain. So in animation, you know, a lot of villains have kind of very triangular shape. So this is very stereotype design lesson we usually learn. But when we deal with more complex story, complicated, you know, characters in the movie and story, you kind of have to do more complex shape designs than this, and you kind of have to use this stereotype to avoid, because audience knows kind of stereotypical the way. I think good example that they used is in Toy Story 3. The villain was a Huggy Bear. His design was a round, kind of rectangular, kind of square, but very round, huggy very huggable, snuggy bear. They use that design to kind of flip the story, right? So he happened to be a villain and not a good guy. If you look at Pixar Up story, the Carl, main character, the old man, he doesn't want to give up his house. So he's very stubborn and bold about his decision. So his general shape looked like a square and rectangle. And if you look at the dog named Dog, he's very cuddly, round design. But if you look at the villain dog named Alpha, he has a very pointy, triangular shape of body, triangular shape of nose, triangular shape of ears. So the shapes do matter. They give a great difference in the drawing. Okay, so the reason we use shapes is because it's not just to give an interesting idea, but as a human, gesture artist like us, we could use it to give more psychological effects. So let's say if you want to draw a character who's very bold, you want to use very you want to use a lot of rectangular shape, even in like realistic human drawings. So here's a very angular, very straight hair. If you want to draw a more cuddly, soft character, you can use a lot of round curve. You can use a lot of curve. Show the tenderness of the character's personality. If you want to do like more edge, like a bad boy type, you can use more triangular shape. So you can see, I mean, this is just quick. Even in realistic human drawings, we can apply these elements to show the personality of the character. And one thing I want to suggest to you guys is a lot of beginners, their mistake is, it's kind of related to line 2. They have a tendency not to complete the shape. Please, during the workshop, please try to give more efforts, even drawing a simple line to create a shape. Complete the shapes. So whenever I see many portfolios, the reason their drawing looks bad is, sometimes a lot of them are coming from incompleteness. It's because you didn't finish the drawing. You just stopped in the middle and you just turn it in. It's always good to finish your shape. It's always good to complete the shape. Usually it's gonna give more better look on your drawing. Okay, any question regarding shape? Because this is not a design class, we're not gonna go over much about designing the shapes throughout this workshop. We're gonna more talk about your line work and next form and volume. I mean, of course, there are times you don't finish completing the shapes, but as your reviewer of your drawing and your portfolio, whenever I see these, I mean, this is kind of simple, sample diagram, but when it comes to human drawing, there are times your drawing looks incomplete, which means it gives me a feeling you didn't put much efforts on it. But there are times, it depends on the purpose. I mean, the art is so broad. So think of it, this one is also, it's just my suggestion for the beginners. But I'm sure there are times, sometimes I don't complete the shape, but I can't really think of the purpose behind it at the moment. But I'm sure there will be a purpose where you don't want to finish the drawing or even the shape. So, you know how line was a first dimension and shape was a 2D dimension? And in 3D dimension, especially throughout this drawing workshop, we're gonna draw a lot of 3D human bodies and the characters. The form is very, very important. Form is you need to have an ability to see an object in 3D dimension. So if you look at the simple diagrams I have here, the form has a depth. Sometimes it carries a perspective. Especially as a character animator, character artist, we have to know how these 3D objects are moving. Every animator requires to have an ability to turn around the objects and the humans. So you must know how to draw form in 3D shape. So if you're a beginner, you need to practice a lot of form drawings, and kind of you have to, we're drawing things in our imagination onto paper. So when we draw characters, we have to know how to see those characters in 3D space. Okay. So then the question is, line carries a lot of meanings. It could be an essence, and it should represent more than just drawing an outline of the objects. And even the shape carries the psychological effects. It tells something. It gives a very interesting, aesthetic, pleasing, satisfaction for the viewer. What does form do? How do we make a form turning into some kind of aesthetic beauty? So from now on, I'm gonna share more about my style, and with using these line, shape, form, how do I approach my drawings. So let me show you some of the samples. So here's one is old car, and next is a new car. I'm gonna talk about the difference between, in design, aesthetic beauty that we can find. The biggest difference is coming from the form. You can see the old design. It's tried to give a design with line and shapes only, and it's creating a very interesting look with very straight lines and all that. But if you look at the new car, instead of giving an idea about the shape and the line works, it's trying to create a beauty out of the form, which is a volume. Many car designers, they design a car and they want to make customers to feel the volume. So making the customers to feel like, oh, this car is filled with things, it's filled with contents. It's kind of giving an idea that it's just one body, the design shows a, is filled with a great volume as a one body. If you compare it to the old car, it's more, everything's kind of separated. It doesn't feel like it's just a one body volume. But new car, today's modern car design is all about the volume. Let's say there's an old car. I'm sorry, I'm not a car designer, so my car design will be very terrible. It was trying to create some kind of form by line work. And if you look at like old Mustang car, which is classic car, which is still nice looking, but you can see, it was trying to create, some lines. So lines were very definable back in old days in old car. But today, if old car was all about line and simple form, so which means today car they want to make the audience, the customers, to feel the volume of the car. That's where the aesthetic beauty is coming from. So if your design has a volume, if I can feel the volume from your design, I can feel the contents is rich inside the objects of your design. Some of you, if you're a beginner, it might be a little bit hard to understand this concept. I'll try to make it easy to explain this. So there are many great animation artists, right? But not everyone is, obviously because of style, but not everyone is meant to work on action genre show. And a lot of them is not because of technique or not because of style, because of volume design. Not everyone can do volume drawing. So animation is all about volume drawing. So because we are moving around and there's a squash stretch and we want to keep the volume same all the time, and amateurs and not skilled enough artists can't do that often. A lot of them can do shape drawings and make it turn around, but as a storyboard artist, as a storyboard director, when we look at portfolio for hiring storyboard artists for action shows, a lot of them cannot make it because they can't do drawing, the volume drawing. So I'll show you some of the demonstrations. Many of them can have learned the form and how to foresee, how to see an object in 3 dimension. But when we say keep the volume similar and keep the volume constant, usually they can't do that. They can't keep constancy of the volume. So when how I say line, line can be essence, right? It's not just about an outline of the objects, but it's, we can convey, more about the objects. It's not just about copying the objects, but it's kind of replacing the object onto your paper. And volume is very important. I consider this really high value when I do drawing. It's because volume, if your drawing can keep the volume and can tell the volume, it gives more richness to the viewer's eye. It's not just staying as a form, art of form, but it's the form, this basic form can create aesthetic beauty. The reason your drawing turns bad is because it's failing. The volume is failing. So let's say you're drawing the water balloon, right? And you want to express with your line, you want to express, you're not just drawing the outline of the object, you want to express there's a water inside, right? That's, if you can't achieve that, you have succeeded. So you don't want to lose the volume that water balloon is having. I'll show you why the volume fails. Like, let's say if you draw a water balloon with failing the volume, so your line works are not expressing the volume. It's actually bothering the volume. So in this case, which one do you guys feel the water balloon has the water, and you feel the volume of the water balloon? This one, right? This one is failing the volume. And I mean, I'm sharing very easy, simple water balloon demo, but when it comes to the character, your character, if your character is losing a volume on your arm and legs, it makes that's what makes your drawing very amateur. So good artists know how to keep, especially character artists, if you want to be a great, you have to know how to draw a volume on your drawing. So when I draw a line, I try to hold the volume and hold what's inside the figure. So even I fail form, or even I make a funky shape, as long as I keep the volume, it doesn't hurt your drawings. And it works really great especially for action adventure show storyboard and even characters. And a lot of Asian animators are used to this, so that's why when we give very design oriented, shape oriented animated show to Asia, there's not a good way, it's not used to them. So that's why it's hard for them to create a good show. So it's something to think about. I'll do a couple character drawings, what it means to draw a volume. So when we go to next panel, you can see my onion skin there. When we do a next drawing, or even turn around or do acting, even is we learn how to, in American animation, we generally learn by changing the shape, and through that we express volume, keeping so, which means, this is, I'm just showing the American way. Even in American or Japanese anime, it doesn't matter. You don't want to lose you may lose a form. There's absolutely no way you can keep it on model every drawing. But if you keep the volume, it does look a same character. So it's very important to even the change of form and shape, it's very important to keep the form. Okay, let me show you the Japanese animation. The way we approach volume is a little bit different than the way American animation approaches. I think it's because a lot of Japanese anime has a very realistic, figurative design than the cartoon, which is very exaggerated, shape changes. So it's a different approach. When we animate in Asian style, animators care the center line. So when you draw a form and volume, I use center line a lot. The center line that goes right center of the character. So let's say we kind of make the center line as a standard to create a form and volume. So let's say there's a character's face. I draw a center line. So it doesn't matter whether it's on model or not. I try to draw a volume to the character. And when we draw a figure's body, there are many anatomy there, right? But the first thing that I care is how the center line is laid out, and that's very important, especially when you're animating too, because you want to keep the volume consistent. So when I draw a body, I try not to draw form or outline, but try to you know what's the character's volume is. So based on that line, the center line there, I try to keep the volume based on that. So let's say this is the first pose. I move a center line here. And see how I keep the volume, and even I don't trace it, I don't draw over that layer. I can keep somewhat similar, keep the model. So let's say the character has turned. As long as I know how to keep the volume, the drawing won't be ruined or look like it's falling apart. That's the biggest part of when I look at amateur action storyboard artists. The first drawing is great. They know how to draw one drawing. But when I tell them to continue that drawing with other gesture and acting, characters start to fall apart. That drawing start to fall apart. It's because they're not used to how to keep the volume safe. So let's say my center line is there. As long as I have that, I can, as long as I have that, and as long as I keep the volume similar, so I think the head, so do you see that I'm not trying to draw a form, if you too much stick to the form, your drawing looks very cylinder, dummy, mannequin looking. But no matter how the form changes, or no matter how the shape changes, I can't, I don't even draw a finger on model, but all I do is I keep the volume same. So the reason I draw volumes, I care volume, and I call my drawing self as a volume drawing, is because I feel like I try to feel that I'm drawing the essence of the characters, what's inside of the characters, not just a look of the character. So as long as you keep the volume, even they both look a different model, people will understand very easily, kind of, can understand it as the same character. Okay, so this technique, this style, is what everyone do at Legend of Korra, all these action shows. So I try not to, I'm not a designer, and I'm a terrible at character designs. I have absolutely no interest in designing things. I just like drawings. And as long as you know how to draw volumes, any character designer's design can apply. So that's the beauty of it. And just like I said, when you draw a line, I feel like I'm keep repeating the same words. You're not just drawing out lines. Your line must convey the essence of the objects. And it might very abstract words, but try to purpose that from now on during this course of workshop. So be careful. Your line must be very, you should care every single line. Don't draw fast. Take it slow. Don't do mindless drawing. Don't do mindless lines. Every line must serve the purpose, and you have to know the reason why you drew that line. And every single time, the reason you can't draw well, and you don't know where your drawing is going. So, and second, keep the shape complete. Do not draw short lines, do whatever shapes. Keep the it doesn't have to be perfect circle or perfect shapes that you want to create. As long as you give a nice shape, it's gonna serve well in your drawing. Okay, and third, keep the volume same, and remember the center line. So center line is something Japanese animator or Korean animators use a lot. Just using that center line, based on that, you can start creating a form. It's like when you draw a cube, you draw a center line there. You have to know how to do a center line on the objects. That's important. So first assignment is I'm gonna give you a SketchUp file and a lot of screenshots, and there are very random objects like this one. I kind of made that up to challenge you guys. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna make these objects turn around in form, and do not lose your volume, do not lose a shape, and make your line best lines. A very simple task, but it's very hard. Like some of the objects are very hard to draw and turn around. So you kind of have, I want you guys to grow ability to see things in 3D shape, and please keep things I share in this lecture. Keep the lines best lines, shapes do not incomplete it, and please keep the volume when you turn it around. So don't do like top view, profile view, which are very easy. Make it 3/4 view, down shot, up shot, to make a turnaround. So at least you need four for each objects. I'll give you all the instruction how to download SketchUp and all the YouTube video that you can use SketchUp to turn around the objects. And just in case, I'll give you all the screenshots of turnaround, so you can, if you don't want to use SketchUp, you can use the image as well. So there are some simple shapes, there are some hard objects. So the achievement is you must keep the volume, make your volume alive, so it feels like you can draw essence, not just simple flat design. Okay, so maybe you can draw this angle, and next you can turn around this angle, maybe you can turn around that angle, and it's all about how you can sharpening your ability to know the objects in 3D dimension and how to draw them in a constant way. So it might be, if you are semi-pro and professional, if you feel this is a little bit kind of cheesy homework, you are welcome to skip it. But if you're beginners, please take this assignment very seriously. Okay, if you can't even draw this trailer, how are you gonna draw a character which is more complex form?